Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions. My co-host Stacie here to talk about Teacup, Season 1, Episode 3, Quiet for No Reason, and Episode 4. And the episode description for the first episode reads as follows. After learning a devastating secret about his wife, Ruben joins James on a mission to get help at the nearby Navarro farm. Arlo reveals both what's happening to him and the strange and terrifying reality of the situation they are in. Leads Beryl and Nicholas into the woods. The episode was written by Ian McCullen, who also created the series, based on a book by Robert McCammon, directed by Chloe O'Connell, and she directed actually the second episode of the series as well.
The fourth episode. The second episode of tonight.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I know that's what you meant.
Right.
It's not what you said.
No, it is not. So before we go any further, I'll tell you a couple things. One, this is not a sport-free podcast. So if you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out, and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms of this podcast is now available on, please follow, and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to the channel. All right, no critical response thus far because we are recording this in advance.
Yeah.
But Stacie, your thoughts on episode 3 and 4?
Okay, so I feel like we got a little bit of a slowdown from where we started. 1 and 2, I think, were a little more exciting, maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if that's true. Like, a lot of stuff does happen here. We introduced to a whole nother family, except they're all dead. So there's that.
Yes. And basically resolve who that woman was in the first place, so we actually know for sure that who she actually is.
So we're halfway through now.
Yes.
It's so weird that this season is so short.
Yeah.
That this is half of it already.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little concerned with what they're going to leave us after 8 episodes.
Right, yeah. Are they going to resolve anything? Or
are they going to resolve anything?
Right.
Now, one thing is we're getting answers pretty early on about what type of thing we're dealing with.
If you can trust any of those answers.
We're getting potential answers.
Right, yeah.
We're getting some potential leads on the scope of what this show is about. We're not going to wait 3 years to say, what are we watching?
Right, yes.
So there's that.
Yep, that's true.
That's true. So remember I had the theory that all the episode titles were going to be song titles?
Yes.
So we skewed that a little bit here.
Okay.
Episode 3, Quiet for No Reason's not a song title, but it's a lyric.
Okay.
From the poetic verse that we hear at the end of this episode.
Gotcha.
Which is called "I've Been to a Marvelous Party" by the Divine Comedy. So instead of naming the episode that, they picked a lyric from the episode.
Well, I kind of found the title for this episode ironic.
Yeah.
Because when I initially tried to watch the screener episode, there were some technical difficulties and I was not able to hear any of the actual audio, which got fixed so that we could do this podcast. But yeah, so that definitely was an ironic title.
Yeah, it was
sure.
funny because you messaged me, right? And I hadn't tried watching it yet, and you're like, "Did you watch it?" And you said you had a problem, and I'm thinking it's you. I'm like, is there a mute button? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing wrong? You gotta be doing something wrong.
Right.
And then I was like, let me check, and then I was like, oh, I see what you mean. Like, the audio was just off, right?
Yep.
And then I saw the titles, Quiet for No Reason, and I sat there for a minute, and I went, is it supposed to be quiet?
Yeah, maybe you were supposed to not be able to hear anything. Yeah.
But then I realized, like, no, it's too quiet. There's a whole episode of no talking. So, so we, had emailed Peacock and we got a new copy of the screener. But it was funny that that's the title. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Quiet for No Reason. Maybe somebody saw that and, just thought they'd make it quiet.
Yeah, they decided to play a little practical joke. Well played, sir. Well played. Or ma'am.
But yeah, we got to spend some more time with these characters, and we got some interesting stuff happening with them.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else to say before diving in?
I think we should just go for the scene by scene, and we'll hit the stuff from there as it happens.
All right. So the episode begins with Donna looking at the horrible inside-out human remains statue that used to be his wife.
Yes.
I'm pretty positive that if my wife died in this fashion, that I would not be just sitting there staring at her. I would.
He doesn't know what to do with himself, but what I'm happy for is he's got his dog with him, and the dog is safe.
And the dog seems a little too happy for my taste.
Well,
maybe the dog should be a little bit upset that his human mom died.
They did tell us that the dog never left her side.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, and that's credits. And after the credits, we come back. James and Maggie are laying in bed, wide awake. James gets up, sighs, and leaves the room without comment.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they got any sleep.
No. James checks in on his son. Nicholas is apparently sleeping on the floor. There's also a turned-over teacup on the floor, which has to be symbolic for something.
Well, remember the last he touched it is he had put the marbles under it and called it a little lighthouse.
Right. So Maggie gets dressed, looks out her window, and observes Donald still staring at his dead wife. She goes and checks on Meryl and ends up cuddling up with her for a bit. And she tells her that she has things to do and needs her to be an adult for a little bit. Yeah,
she needs Meryl to take care of Arlo when he wakes up.
And she takes this to heart. She acts in that manner for the remainder of the episode.
Yeah.
James and Maggie talk in the kitchen, and she reveals that she knows that he was having an affair with Valeria. That's the name, right?
Valeria.
So I'm getting closer to that name. Overhearing the conversation is Ruben, Valeria's wife. Husband.
Wow. The Shanley family is sleeping in the living room.
Yep.
So this conversation's happening in the kitchen. They are talking about this quite loudly, considering the people you're talking about are like 10 feet that way.
It's interesting because Ruben, for the rest of this episode, it's interesting to observe his scenes.
Yeah.
The subtext is very interesting.
So I get the idea that he had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie knew her husband was having an affair. She just didn't know with who until the events of the last episode. I'm pretty sure this is completely taking Ruben off guard.
Right.
He had no idea there was anything going on, and now he knows because he overheard this couple talking about it, and he doesn't know what to do with himself about this information.
Right. And basically, James says to his wife, I do love you. And she comes back with, yeah, it wouldn't hurt as much if he didn't.
Right.
And so James ends up talking to his mother, who overheard the argument, but didn't exactly hear the content of the conversation, but understood the tone. And it seems to be implied that there isn't any saving this relationship, at least not at this point. Ruben is getting dressed with Valeria, who is just waking up. He doesn't reveal what he knows, but is vaguely cold to her. He starts to walk towards the exit of the house. She asks where he's going, and he says he's going to go do something. He doesn't really know what. She says to not do anything stupid or brave. And he says, keep it cowardly, got it. James is going to go exploring. I guess he's going to go to the neighbor's farm, is what they're talking about him doing.
Yeah, so they're going to go to the closest neighbors, the Navarros. And we already know from digging deep into the credits that that's the dead woman, Carmen Navarro. But they don't know anything yet. They don't know if the Navarro's farm is within the circle or outside of it. And he says that he hopes that they are just outside of it. So they're close enough to communicate with, but can still go for help.
Right. So Maggie ends up sharing a scene with Ruben. He knows about the affair. And she knows about the affair. But she doesn't know that he knows.
Right.
So there's a little bit of subtext there. And he wants to go with James on this adventure. He puts a gun in her hand and gives her advice on how to use it despite her being nervous about doing so. Basically to defend herself.
Yeah, and he says, take your time. Going slow is quick if you do it right. And then he tells her that they'll both get through this.
Right.
And I don't think he's talking about the situation that they're in. He's talking about their relationships.
And of course, I don't think she knows that's the case either. So Maggie goes and visits Donald. She takes him inside. And Ellen and Valeria take a blanket to try and give Claire some dignity.
Yeah, so they take... So it starts with Ellen. Says she's taking a lawn chair and she's going to go sit at the end of the driveway hoping to spot a car. And Valeria goes with her. So they've formed a little bond, these two. Mm. They're kind of like the outsiders here. They don't know what to do with themselves. So they become friends. And they take this blanket and they throw it over Claire. I don't think it helped much.
No.
They can still pretty much see her.
Yeah. So Ruben goes to the stables with to talk to James and wants to talk to the Navarro's.
Yeah.
And Maggie takes care of Donald, giving him some animals pain medicine. Yeah, she's basically giving him some kind of like
a horse tranquilizer or something.
Yeah.
And she's like, this isn't for people, but
it'll help the pain.
But you like don't have a hand, so yeah.
So she suggests that he lay down. And he ends up asking about Arlo. He says he would have loved to have had a family. He was supposed to have one with Claire, but that was 10 years back, and clearly the time has passed him by. And he starts crying. And, of course, she's a comfort to him. James
and then suddenly he remembers the body.
Right.
So he hadn't told anybody because, all this stuff happened. But he just remembered. He's like, wait, there's a body in the woods, which is going to send Maggie off on an adventure.
James and Reuben in the woods find a snake, half across the blue line, half out.
Yeah, and I didn't want to see that. I don't like snakes. Yeah. It's bad. I don't want to look at that.
It's a dead snake. Does that help?
No, it didn't help.
No. So James wonders how Gas Mask Man knew where to paint it. Reuben thinks that maybe he was the mastermind behind it. And James thinks the guy seemed to be, trying to help them. But Reuben pointedly says that sometimes people act like one thing but are really another. And that's very clearly a shot at James.
Yeah, he's definitely throwing some shade here. And we're going to get comments like that throughout the whole episode.
Yeah, and James is too stupid to pick up on it, by the way. I'm really starting to think that James is kind of dumb. But, and then he says, nobody would know. And, Reuben says, nobody would know. And James is like, well, what do you mean? And he says, if one of us ended up over the line. And this read as a threat to me.
It absolutely was a threat.
Right. But he's like, oh yeah. So, nobody would know if you got thrown over in there and turned inside out.
He's like, nobody would know what happened to you. Yeah. Way out here.
But he's like, so be careful. So he's playing it off as concern, but he's definitely threatening him without James knowing it. So they hear crows.
Some crows!
Yes. And they think, okay, so either... they're looking for some prey of something that got turned inside out or some other nightmares coming. Either way, they're turning around and going back or going somewhere else. The creature inhabiting Arlo is looking at a dictionary.
And learning new words.
Yes.
Specifically scanning straight through the page and learning the words in a very quick fashion.
So he asks, Nicholas ends up asking who he is. And he comes up with Harbinger, which is not a good name. Harbinger is usually a harbinger of bad things.
Well, okay, so I looked up the word harbinger. Doesn't necessarily mean bad things.
Okay.
So the definition of harbinger is something that comes before and shows what will follow in the future. So it basically is just a precursor to.
Okay.
Precursor to what is,
debatable.
Right.
So, Arlo, so Harbinger says that Arlo is basically sleeping and safe.
And he says a few words. He says, so he's still learning language, right? He gets better, as he talks to people. He must
not have spent too much time in his previous hosts.
No, and also I don't think she spoke much English.
Oh, that's fair. So he's now any words that he learned was in Spanish or whatever language they speak.
Yeah, because remember she was not speaking in English when we heard her talking.
So now he's learning English.
So the words he said here are warning, alert, friend, and premonition. So he's trying to come up with all the things to be like, you know what, this is good. I'm here to help you. Again, I don't know if we can trust him.
Right.
But he's pretty convincing to these kids that he's helpful.
Right. So he talks of an assassin and a killer, and he starts freaking, and then sees a picture and says something about not being trapped.
Okay, so remember before the word he found was trap, the first word he looked up in the dictionary last week. And so now he says trapped, hide or die, assassin, kill, murder. So we either hide or the assassin's going to kill us.
Yep.
And then water spilled on this painting of a rainbow and all the colors started smearing. And he realized something. He said, we're not trapped. He has an idea. In much fewer words. He has an idea of how they can get out of this.
So he starts to walk away, and then he turns into Arlo. And Arlo instructs them to listen to Harbinger.
And he takes all the marbles out. Remember, there's a jar full of marbles. Yep. He dumps all the marbles out.
That they need to go, and it's not very far. And to trust him, because right now he's the one that knows things. Unlike, the usual. His sister's supposed to know things because she's older. Nicholas wants to get an adult, but Meryl, who has agreed to be an adult for a while, agrees to follow Arlo/Harbinger. So Ellen and Valeria are sitting together. She reveals that she knows about the affair without actually saying so.
Yeah, because I don't think I actually brought this up, but in the very first episode, it was in my notes, and I just don't think I read that part. Like, you could see her watching them, and, like, their fingers touched at one point, and you see her taking note of that. Like, she's observing everything around her, and she's a smart woman. She's picking up all of the clues.
So she's basically the Tilly of this series.
Sure.
Okay. So suddenly a band drives up. Okay. So basically, before this, Valeria starts talking about how she doesn't love the farming life.
Yeah, she says when they first moved here, this seemed like the storybook life, but in reality, farming is just a whole lot of nonstop nothing. She's bored.
So this justifies her affair?
Yeah, she's bored and unhappy.
Okay. So suddenly a band drives up, a man exits and starts walking towards them. And they start freaking out like, don't cross that line, don't cross that line. And then he does so with absolutely no problem. And the man says that coming this way is no problem. The other way, not so much.
Right, so you can cross into the circle, you just can't leave the circle.
They admit to being terrified, and the man says that terrified is a good place to start. Nicholas and Meryl end up following Arlo in the woods. Nicholas reveals that he has a knife for protection. They find a hole and a colorful rock. Arlo says it's his, and he points to that it came from the sky.
Yeah, so basically this is a crater that has been made by something that came from space.
Right.
Whether it was a meteor or a craft of some kind.
Right.
But it's like a burned out crater in the ground. And it's surrounded, by the way, by a whole bunch of dead animals.
Yes.
Not good stuff's happening here. And so he goes to, like you said, the rock. And it looks like oil paint. It's like this whole rainbow of liquid.
Right.
And Harbinger collects that liquid in the jar, the marble jar.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, he says that it's a toxin. And he says that they are going to drink it.
Yeah, he said toxin, bad, poison, and when Nicholas said, what are they going to do with it? He's like, we're going to drink it.
Right,
duh.
Of course. What else would you do with a toxin or poison? So James and Ruben make their way to the Navarro property. They search it. And
they call out for Carmen, Edward, and Brian. So that's the Navarro family. We already know Carmen's fate. So I'm assuming Edward is the husband. Well, we'll know later. Edward's the husband. Brian must be their son.
So Ruben finds they split up. They search the property. Ruben finds dogs by a silo and gets them to go away. I don't know what they're hovering around for.
They're just kind of, it's creepy, right? Because they're sitting at attention in front of the silo and he shoos them away. Later in the episode, they're right back sitting there again. They are attracted to the thing in the silo, which we will get to. I don't even know if that was this episode or episode 4.
I think that was the next episode.
Somewhere today, we'll get to that.
Yes.
And they're drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the animals are acting weird. The animals all seem to know things.
Right.
The animals know what's going on. The people are pretty clueless, but the animals seem on top of stuff.
Yep. Maybe so Lily should be able to tell us what's going on in this series then, huh?
Maybe. Well, I don't think she's been paying attention.
Okay, probably not.
She did watch these 2 episodes with me. That's my dog we're talking about.
Yes. So, Ruben, so James finds a dead person and a note under a rock. Ruben opens the silo.
Okay, so I want to talk about this note.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the woman here, it's a woman in a police officer's uniform who's dead there. And she's sitting next to a kiddie pool that has a hose going into it that's overflowing because the hose is just perpetually filling this pool. And the paper is instructions for resurrecting a drowning victim.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's also a gas mask laying nearby.
Yeah, okay.
So what I'm getting out of this is we drown someone in purpose with the intent of bringing them back.
Maybe.
My thought is that they have maybe came to an idea or a conclusion, or we don't know if it, well, obviously it wasn't successful, but they must have had a plan that in order to get rid of a possession, whatever this being is inside somebody, that if we kill them and resurrect them, we can fix it. That's what I'm assuming is happening here.
Okay.
Something's happening here.
Right, of
that
course.
They're intentionally trying to drown somebody and bring them back to life.
And I guess it did not work too
well. This police woman's dead.
Yes.
And then nearby, a bird is eating the face off of a dead man. James identifies this as being Edward Navarro. So this is Carmen's husband. He's very dead, too.
Yes. Very, very, very dead. So, yeah, Ruben opens a silo and finds himself getting locked in. James goes into the house, finds another dead person.
And this, I'm assuming, is the boy Brian, their son.
And meanwhile, we see Maggie on her little adventure.
Yeah, so she's found Carmen, and she's identified this woman as Carmen now. She knows her. And she notices the bind marks on her wrist.
And James finds another dead person. And then James calls...
No, there's a total of 3 dead bodies.
Okay.
So there's the police woman.
Yep.
The dad, Edward, outside, and the son, Brian, in the house.
Maybe that's what my note is referring to. It's just like I just wrote that too many times in my notes. But James calls out... and then finds himself getting pulled downstairs into the basement.
He walks towards the basement, and somebody pulls him into the basement. And this is when the episode ends. It felt like a really quick episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only 30 minutes long.
These are all like 30-something minutes, yeah. And this is when the song, it's not even a song. It's like a
lyric?
I don't know what to call, like, the whole piece. It's like a poem,
okay,
almost. I've been to a marvelous party. And that plays out the episode to the credits.
Okay.
And it's, I don't know, I'm not familiar with most of these things that were, like, these songs that they're picking for these episode titles and end credits, but I listened to some of this, and it just sounds, like, really nonsensical. It's about a nonsensical gathering of people.
Okay.
And it was creepy to listen to that in this setting.
Gotcha. All right, so episode 4 is titled "In the Heart of the Country." Is that a song lyric?
It is. Okay. That's a song title.
Okay.
Which, again, plays out the episode once we get to the credits.
Who sings it?
I don't think I wrote that down.
Okay.
Maybe at the end I did.
So
we'll see when I get to the end.
Okay, so the episode description...
I don't think I did.
The episode description for that reads as follows. James and Ruben are both held captive at the Navarro farm, though we don't see them for quite a bit of this episode. On their way back from the woods, Arlo, Nicholas, and Meryl encounter McNabb, a mysterious man who wants to help, or does he? All right, so the episode begins with Maggie reading a note and says, "Do not cross the line." It's similar to what we saw the gas mask.
Yeah, it's like a note of all the things that they've been told.
Right.
That they wrote it all down so they don't forget the 2 lines of text that they've heard so far, and they're reminding us, the audience,
right?
Do
not cross the line. I'm pretty sure I can follow.
The notes were: "Do not cross the line and trust no one."
Okay.
So pretty detailed instructions. They have to write these down.
Right. Yeah. So she walks away from the dead Carmen, and we cut to our credits. Once again, Chloe Okona directed this episode as well. Arlo, Nicholas, and Meryl are still near the hole.
And we get close-ups on these dead animals now. Yeah. They're very dead.
Yes. They're supposed to drink a bit of the liquid. If they drink too much, they die.
And I love this. Well, Nicholas breaks it down for us. I love this character. And by the way, we did not continue with Nicholas' dad jokes this week.
I'm disappointed.
That I had suggested we might. He breaks it down and he says, "Okay, let me get this straight. If we take a sip of this, we can walk over the line, easy peasy.
Right.
But if we drink too much, we're going to die like all these animals did. So that's why these animals died, because they drank the toxin."
Okay.
And Harbinger's like, "Yep. But if we drink too little..." When we try to go over the line,
it's not going to be effective.
It'll kill us and we'll die.
Right.
But if we do nothing, then Assassin's going to come kill us.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, you have to drink. You have to risk drinking it.
And you have to drink just the right amount.
Right. And so, yeah, good luck with that. They start walking. Valeria and Ellen talk to the mysterious man. He says that he was there to get them out safely. And based on everything that takes place in this episode, I'm not even sure it's worth recapping what he said, because I'm pretty sure all of it is a lie.
Well, I feel like there's some truths in the things he says. Some sprinkles of truth.
I'm sure.
He says something here about, that the line is what's affecting the animals.
Right.
And that what it is vibrations or something.
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant exactly, so I'm a little confused there. But Maggie gets home from her little adventure.
Yeah, and we very quickly realize that she doesn't trust what's happening here, and we learn that Ellen and Valeria have been giving this man way too much information.
Yeah,
they've blown their entire, like, here's how many people are here, here's all the kids, here's all of our stories.
Right.
Do you want our social security numbers?
Right.
That's what it feels like.
So this man turns out to be Lieutenant Olsen, and we cut away from this group.
Let me tell you about Lieutenant Olsen.
Yes, what is that actor's name?
Give me a second because it's here somewhere. Wow. Okay, wait a minute.
You don't have it?
I definitely have him, but where is he?
Oh.
I'm so confused. Here it is.
Okay.
It was on a page that I turned because my cast ran over into the page. Okay, so Lieutenant Olsen is played by Bill Heck. And he's in 9 episodes of The Old Man, 9 episodes of Lock and Key, and 8 episodes of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh,
the series.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So that is Lieutenant Olsen, who I'll refer to as a different name later.
So we cut away to Nicholas, who is using Ellen's strategy of saying a bad thing, but... And he eventually ends up saying he ends up basically confessing the fact that he's been in love with.
So he goes through a couple bad things, and Meryl picks up on what he's doing, and that he got that from her grandma. And he says, "I hit my head. It's bloody and it hurts a lot, but the girl I've been in love with since the 2nd grade took care of it and made me feel better." She
doesn't show him a reaction, but she looks kind of pleased by this. I don't know.
I don't think she was expecting it.
Right. And by the way, in this scene, I happen to notice that she really does look like Yvonne, the actress playing Maggie.
Yeah.
So it's really good casting. They do look like mother and daughter.
So she's standing in front of him, so he can't see her face, and she just kind of keeps walking. She doesn't respond to him.
Right.
And then the look on his face, I couldn't tell.
He looks disappointed.
Is he upset that she didn't react, or is he upset with himself for saying it?
I think it's more of the fact that he was hoping for some type of reaction and he didn't get it.
Yeah.
So Arlo says that they need to go home and they continue walking. And then we cut back to Maggie, who told them about
Carmen.
Carmen.
Yeah.
And Olsen says he knows what she was doing up there. He was looking for her. He
said a big part of his job was to find Carmen.
Yeah.
Who has been confused and missing since yesterday.
And he continues to be vague, and they keep asking questions. Oh, he keeps asking questions. Ellen brings up Arlo, and I'm like, oh, this is so bad.
Yeah, so he's asking if anybody else saw, has anybody come into contact with Carmen or just you? And she says, well, Don's the one who told her about it. And he's like, well, was he alive? Was she alive when he saw him? And we go back and forth, and he's like, it's good that she was dead when Donald saw her, because if anybody had come across her when she was alive, we'd have a big problem. Mm. And that's when she goes, oh, wait, Arlo might have saw her.
Right. And of course, Maggie is not a fool. She tries to downplay that. She talks to Olsen into going to the barn and basically says, the kids are in the barn.
Yeah, which we all know they're not.
Right. And they walk away, and Ellen and Valeria are like, what is she doing? Like, they're really confused by this. And didn't they get the whole trust no one thing? Because
and apparently not.
I guess
because they trusted him very fast, just because he has a badge.
Yeah, I guess so. So the kids are still walking. Meryl asks Nicholas why he said that about the whole being in love with her since the 2nd grade thing. He says because it's true. And then, he starts to say because he might not get an opportunity to say it in the, because they might die.
He's like, with everything going on right now.
But then they notice the line. And Meryl wants to talk to Arlo specifically. And she ends up asking Harbinger if Harbinger came from space. The answer is yes. And the assassin... Oh, okay. So he's saying that the assassin made the line. And Harbinger is on a secret mission.
Right. Now, specifically, the assassin made the barrier, not the blue paint line, which McNabb made, which is where Nicholas is going to get confused very shortly.
Right, okay. So, a car drives up, and they seem happy for some reason. I don't know why.
I mean, they're looking for help.
I guess.
So, if someone's on the other side of the line, we can tell them we need help.
Okay. So, Maggie brings Olsen into the barn, starts asking questions. Olsen says that there's a vibration that affects the way people, the way we saw Claire, what happened to Claire. I don't trust this man's answers.
He tells us he's from the Birmingham police, but he's on a special task force working with the military. And also he works alone until he needs... His story's not adding up.
Right.
No two words that come out of his mouth fit together.
Right.
And she isn't, a dummy to that.
Right.
She realizes nothing he's saying is making any sense.
She ends up pointing a gun at him. She doesn't believe his story. He wants her to be taken to her son. And he attacks, but he gets the better of him. She gets the better of him. She ends up talking to Valeria. We basically cut away.
Yeah,
it was like a quick cut.
We cut. It's probably where they're going to stick a commercial if you are paying for the ad-based version of Peacock. And Valeria has joined her at this point.
Right.
And also has a gun.
Valeria says he doesn't look like a liar. And Maggie points out, rather pointedly, that liars look like everyone else. Valeria says she knows about James. Yeah, she does now.
She realized that she knows.
Okay, but if you're wrong, then you just outed yourself.
Yeah, but she was pretty sure.
Right.
Like, that was a pretty blatant comment.
Right. So she claims not to hate her. She says she feels angry, sad, and betrayed, but she feels bad for her because she used to think she was a good person, and she has to be struggling with that now. And basically, Valeria turns around and basically away from her and says, wow, James was right. You can be really, really cold.
Yeah. And I'm just like, time and place, ladies. Like, what are you doing right now?
Right. So Olsen regains consciousness, and he still wants him to bring Arlo, but of course Maggie won't. Maggie leaves Valeria in charge of the prisoner. And Olsen says that they got it wrong, and he starts singing.
He's humming In the Heart of the Country.
Right.
The title of this episode, that song. And he tells her it's the craziest thing. It's stuck in his head. And she tells him that's an earworm. And which is my word for... That's my name for this thing that we're soon going to learn is here. Is earworm. She says it's a song you can't get out of your head. Mm-hmm. And he likes that.
So Ellen comes up the stairs... and she sends Valeria to look for the kids.
Yeah, because she can't find the kids. They're not in the house. And she's, because she's dealing with her tremors and stuff, she can't go to the woods looking for them. So she sends Valeria. And basically, so now Ellen is left. They hand her a little handgun. And say, scream if anything happens.
Right.
This doesn't feel like a good situation.
It does not. So Maggie in the clinic seems to be panicking and breaking down. She's comforted by Donald, who has regained some kind of semblance of consciousness. He talks her down from her panic attack and says that everything is going to be okay. Arlo and Co. encounter the man in a mask with the same warning that he's been giving out before, don't cross the line. Nicholas reaches for his knife, and Mero notices this but tells him, no, don't do that. The masked man wants a jar. He crosses the line, but Nicholas ends up stabbing him, and the jar ends up breaking.
Yeah, and Arlo, or Harbinger, one of them, screams, no! And so that's bad. The toxin is now spilled all over the ground.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about dosing because it's gone.
Right. Well, was that all of it, or could they get more?
It looked like there wasn't much there.
Okay. But it was enough to kill all those animals.
Yeah, I think they drank most of it, is the problem, is it's gone.
Okay.
And now, like, they're learning that someone can cross to their side of the line, because the kids didn't know that before.
So the masked man ends up pulling out the knife, which, by the way, is bad first aid. You're not supposed to do that. Meryl goes to help him because she actually knows some medical stuff.
Right, because, we've already been told that, she's a pretty good student. Mom's been pushing her to, be a vet like her, I guess.
And the mask gets pulled off, and it turns out to be McNabb. We're seeing him for the first time, very clearly. He's in bad shape. Harbinger says he knows him as McNabb, and he reveals that he was trying to get him to safety, and he was almost going to do that, but and to get him into the car, but then Harbinger ran.
Yeah, so McNabb realizes that the creature that was in the woman, the whatever that was in the woman, is now in Arlo.
Right.
And so we're getting a little bit of the story. So here's the big thing is we started this story halfway through the story. Things happened. A lot of things happened before the start of this series. And our big mystery right now, on top of, what the heck is going on, is what already happened.
Right.
And trying to figure out, and now we know specifically stuff went down at the Navarro farm. And we're getting these little bits and pieces. So, Carmen Navarro, Harbinger was inside Carmen Navarro, McNabb was trying to help her, and then Carmen ran away.
Right.
Did Carmen run away, or did Harbinger run away?
Right. And how long was... Yeah. How long was he in Carmen Navarro in the first place?
And she's bound.
Right. What happened there?
Right. Was that assassin?
Right.
Well, we didn't get to that yet, but is Earworm assassin? I'm not positive yet, so that's why I'm calling that creature Earworm.
Right.
Yeah. So we're getting these little tidbits, like there's some relationship already between McNabb, Gas Mask Man, and Harbinger.
Right.
And for some reason, Harbinger ran away when McNabb was trying to help.
Right. Yeah.
Was it because Harbinger hadn't finished giving their message?
Right.
Or and remember, all this also happened before the line went up.
Which I guess was to trap Arlo in that area.
Maybe.
Or
was there already a line around the Navarro farm and they just expanded it to include the Chenoweth farm?
Maybe.
Or I feel like we don't know what we're dealing with as far as what is the plot.
Right.
We're these characters who are just kind of thrown in the middle of a situation.
Yeah.
And have to learn. They got to play catch up, and that's what we're doing as an audience too.
Right.
We're playing catch up. Is what the heck's already happened?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So Ellen in the barn is with Olsen. Olsen starts doing a thing. Basically, she ends up getting closer to him, and then he opens his mouth, and she ends up.
It's the same thing that happened between Carmen and Arlo.
Yeah. So whatever was in Olsen.
Right. We learned that Olsen isn't Olsen. Olsen was possessed.
Yeah. It transfers.
And whatever was in Olsen transfers into Ellen the same way it happened with Arlo. Like we see it happening in the eyes.
Olsen is now clueless about what's going on here. He asks about McNabb, so it indicates that the two of them were working together.
So the real Olsen now is awake.
Yeah.
Because...
if that's even his name.
Well, that's what he's credited as, and we're not going to see him again, so that's who he is.
Right.
So the real Olsen wakes up, and he says, "Where's McNabb, and what happened to Travis?"
Oh, okay.
And Travis is the character we're soon going to meet in the basement.
Okay. So, Ellen now has the being in him, and he ends up shooting Olsen in the head, and she starts singing, and then bashes her head against a post.
Lily?
Okay. And Ruben is...
So she kills him?
Yeah.
And then makes it look like it was self-defense.
Gotcha.
So she sets him free, make it look like he got out, and then cuts her own head so that she can still claim she's Ellen, and this man got loose, so I had to kill him.
Right.
But what she's not counting on is the fact that her tremor stopped.
Oh, okay.
So she was trembling. As soon as Earworm took over her body, the trembling stopped.
Gotcha.
The family's going to notice that.
Yeah.
And now Ellen is humming the song. And Valeria is going to notice that.
Right.
Because Valeria already had a conversation with Earworm about the fact that he's got that song stuck in his head.
Right.
So I don't think she's going to be able to pull off this cover for very long. But obviously, that's their goal, is to take cover and pretend that I'm still Ellen.
Right.
Because otherwise, why are we, pretending that I got hurt?
Well, hopefully nothing bad happens to that host,
right.
Ellen, because, she's a nice lady.
Well, we've already learned from this scene that, possession doesn't kill the host. Because...
shooting one in the head does,
Olsen came back.
Yeah.
When the host left, or when the creature left, Olsen was fine, until he got shot.
Right.
So... all it takes is for it to move on to somebody else, and you're fine.
Right.
So we don't got to worry about Arlo or Ellen being dead because they've been possessed by something. So
we see Ruben still stuck in the silo, and we see this light show.
We see the dogs are still there.
Yeah.
This is where the dogs have come back. I described it as an earthly tree-like structure.
Oh, okay.
With glowing and lots of colored orbs.
Gotcha. Well, that's pretty
It reminded me of something from Skyrim.
Okay.
And again, we see the 3 dead bodies. The police woman, because we haven't seen them this episode. The police woman.
And gee, I missed them.
Edward Navarro.
They were such great characters.
And Brian Navarro. And then we go to the basement. And James wakes up.
Yep. James is awake. His hands are bound. We see a man who's smoking a cigarette. And he says...
Well, we see a man in a gas mask.
Right. Oh, yeah.
He lights a match, and then he removes the gas mask, coughs, and lights the cigarette.
And he says he isn't sure if James is there to help or if he's there to finish the job. And the man says he needs to give him one good reason why he shouldn't finish his cigarette and shoot him in the head. And that is where the episode ends.
And then we credits out to the song In the Heart of the Country. And this man is the character of Travis. He's played by Jackson Kelly, who was in 8 episodes of Chucky. He was in the movie The Greatest Hits. And he was in an episode of The Good Doctor.
Okay.
And we don't know much about Travis, but I think he's part of whatever McNabb is.
Yeah.
Because they both have gas masks. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of wondering if they were a task force.
Perhaps.
Like McNabb and Travis and the real Olsen before he got possessed, and maybe this police woman that's dead. Like, maybe they were all working together to try and stop this.
Right, perhaps.
Now, as far as the dead woman, the police woman, there is another woman credited in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking it's the police woman. But I don't know why she'd have a credit. But maybe we get a flashback later.
Maybe.
Is why we learn who she is. There's a credit for a character named Mary Alice Ducker.
Okay.
And I can't figure out who that would be unless it's the police woman, because there wasn't any other women we don't know anywhere. But Mary Alice Ducker's played by Ashley Shelton, and that's all credited within the episode. But I couldn't find her on IMDb.
Okay.
So I don't know anything about...
That's not the first time that's happened to you.
Yeah, well, this is part of the problem...
Specifically this series.
Part of the problem of us...
pre-recording things,
we're basing this on screeners and credits that are within the screeners, but the information is not updated on IMDb yet.
Right, yeah.
So eventually there'll probably be information there and people will look at it and say we're stupid because we couldn't find it.
Right.
It's not there yet for us when we're pre-recording this. Also in the credits is a credit for Brian, which I found really weird because he's very dead. He is played by Luis Valadares. And again, these are credited within the episode. So these are accurate credits that are being given to these people. I also couldn't match him up on IMDb. But Edward, the husband, there's no credit for him.
No.
So I'm confused why 2 of the dead bodies have credits and the other one doesn't.
Perhaps some of these people are going to factor in more than others.
Right. Maybe we'll see them later.
Right.
And they just gave credit wherever they appeared physically.
Yeah.
I don't understand credits. Every time I think I understand them, I don't. But the rules are changed in the next series we watch.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's everybody.
All right. So, do we have anything else to say about these 2 episodes?
Bill Hack is gone. I don't think we're going to see Olsen anymore. But Earworm is very much still a character.
Yes.
Currently possessing
Ellen.
Played
by Kathy Baker.
Yes. So we have 2 extraterrestrial, we're presuming.
That's what we're being told. That's what's basically being implied.
Yeah.
Harbinger.
Soul creatures. Like, we don't have physical aliens. We just have, like, these I'm inhabiting your body forces.
Right. So
Harbinger is telling us he's the good guy.
Right.
And he's here to warn us about the bad guy. And the bad guy is Assassin. I'm not 100% convinced that Assassin is Earworm. But I think so. But I'm not ready to call him Assassin yet until somebody tells us, because I don't want to confuse us if that's not the case.
Right. Well, it's not a very nice creature because it does shoot Olsen in the head.
Yeah, Definitely Earworm is a bad guy. So, I'm just not positive that that's the force they're calling assassin.
Gotcha.
Or if he's part of something else. I don't know.
Right.
And then we do have these other people who are trying to do something good. Specifically, McNabb is the only one still alive.
Right.
And
Travis. Yeah.
Which I'm not positive he's on the same side, but I'm assuming so because they both have gas masks. That they started together, maybe, sorta.
I'm assuming.
I mean, for a while I thought Travis was part of the Navarro family until I really was matching up these credits, and then I was like, oh no, that.
Well.
Olsen was asking for Travis.
Presumably, we're going to get more background on
I'm assuming we're going to keep looking backwards and forward as we move through these episodes.
Yeah.
And I really think there's something about the fact that we had these instructions for resurrecting a drowning victim. It reminds me of Final Destination 2. Do you remember that one?
I do. I'm not sure what you're
referring to. It was the one with the car accident in the logs.
Yeah.
And the resolution at the end of that was that she said she had new life had to be born, and she presumed that it meant she had to drown and come back to life.
Yeah. Okay.
And it didn't work.
No.
Like, that wasn't what she had to do. That was the wrong conclusion. But
right.
Whatever they did here didn't work either.
No. Well,
but maybe they were onto something.
Right.
So yeah, if you pass the creature on to another host, you're fine. The host is fine, but how do you get rid of it altogether, I guess, is the question.
Right. I mean, I guess I'm assuming the creature cannot exist outside of a body.
It needs somebody, right?
Well, didn't they suggest that if the body dies and nobody's around, that they would be... I mean, Olsen says that, doesn't he?
Olsen says that, and that's Earworm talking.
Right.
Now, Earworm is hunting Harbinger, which is why I don't know if Earworm is assassin or if Earworm's just trying to stop the messenger.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Earworm's trying to stop Harbinger.
Right, okay.
That's why he wants Arlo.
Gotcha.
Like, hey, I think, your kid's possessed, so I gotta kill him.
Right.
So yeah, does killing the host kill the creature? Maybe?
I'm assuming that it could be like a Fallen situation. Are you familiar with the movie Fallen?
No.
That's a Denzel Washington film from years ago, where basically the spirit... whatever it is, gets transferred by touch. And basically Denzel's character at the end of the movie tries to go someplace where nobody's around and then tries to kill the entity that way while also simultaneously poisoning himself, figuring that if there's nobody around, that he could kill the creature. It can't be passed on. So maybe it's that type of situation here where if there's somebody around, the creature can be passed on. But if there's not, perhaps that's how you stop the creature after a certain amount of time.
Well, I'm guessing that Harbinger's going to be able to give us some more information on how this works as soon as he learns more language.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, is Earworm has much more...
grasp of the English language.
Right.
He spent more time with English-speaking people.
Earworm was able to, pretend to be people.
Right.
Has fully, figured out how to play a person. Where Harbinger can't put a sentence together yet.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. So whatever they are, they're definitely different.
Yes. And
they're also working the same way as far as passing from person to person. And we saw the exact same effects in their eyes.
Right.
So they're, I'm going to say, of the same species.
Yeah.
But of very different levels of human capacity, I guess, is what
That makes sense. Yeah.
So, yeah. I feel like not only are we dealing with, hey, we need to save this family, but is this something bigger? Is this you have to save the world from this alien invasion type of situation? Wow. That'd be a big Harbinger's story. Here to warn about the assassin, but what's the assassin here to do? Right. I can't say that's a story that you could tell in 8 episodes. Right. So hopefully we get more so we can figure out where the heck this is going. Right. All right. Do we have anything else to say? That's all I've got for now. All right. Stacie can be reached at... I can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk. We'd like to hear from you. If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can join one of my Corn Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Corn Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy
buy me a copy. You can join the Corn Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell so you know when new content drops. This is Dave and Stacie from Corn Productions, signing off.